Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much indeed for this another great webinar, which we will be talking on the introduction to the Association for Project Management, APM, and Chartered Project Professional. I just want to introduce Nicola as well. Nicola, she did a webinar with us in October 2020. We are now in August 2022, almost 2 years. But Nicola did have the MBA then. So I can proudly announce Nicola Benjamin, holder of an MBA, BSc, Chartered Project Professional, Associate at the ARUP UK in London. She's an experienced project professional specializing in the delivery of major infrastructure program for over 20 years. During her career, Nicola has worked on some of the UK's biggest infrastructure project and program, including H2, the high-speed 2 network rail, digital railway, and intelligent infrastructure program, and supported the UK government in rolling out numerous transformation programs. Having joined the international consultancy firm ARUP in 2018, Nicola, position as a senior leader, has seen her responsible for the training and development of the organization project community, over 500 experienced and early project managers. Nicola has run numerous training, coaching, mentoring, and support program, ensuring the first-time pass rate for ARUP project managers is over 98%. Nicola has worked closely with the APM leadership for over 5 years and was one of the first project managers in the UK to obtain her chartership following its royal accession in 2018. Nicola is passionate about the development of professional project managers and can continue. We've got 2 champion coaches professional development at all career stages. Having recently set up her own project training organization, she has ambitious target to increase the overall delivery of the industry, encouraging female and BAME and professional project professional to achieve recognized PM qualification as efficiently as possible. So I'm just going to quickly. I can see we've got loads of you and just making sure. And I'm going to play a quick video as well, everyone, from last time, which bring a lot of memories from Nicola. It's only 2 minutes, but I think it's worth watching. So I'm just going to go back to YouTube and just making sure I've shared the screen here. Please, if you do hear the sound and the images, please put your hands up. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to go there. And off we go. Just making sure I've got the video. And again, if you can hear the sound, please just give a shout.
I'd love to have your feedback, which I will then forward to Nicola for a time, effort in putting this together. Thank you very much indeed. I thank you all for being here. Thank you, my colleague Davison and Nicola. I can't thank you enough. Look, you are from the UK. We are hosting it from the Southern Hemisphere, and we are all connecting with you. So I can't thank you enough. I also saw Davison put a comment earlier, not planned. This is our 30th webinar, and it's been incredible when we started it, and we've got Nicola here, which is a fantastic milestone to have you, Nicola. It's been a great tribute to have you, and I hope you can inspire many more around the world and around the globe as you progress. So I'd love to see you maybe next year for another part 2 webinar. And we wish you well, success in ARUP. There has been lots of colleagues from ARUP watching you today as well. So thank you, everybody. I don't want to go, but I have to. Take care, and we'll see you when we see you. But please put your feedback and email me for a certificate. Nicola, maybe a final word, Nicola. I'd love to see a final word to anybody who wants to become a project manager. What's your advice to, what are the key skills you've learned to be a good project manager where you're today?
Oh my goodness, just if you want to do it, find out, learn as much as you can about the profession, look at the areas that you think you can be good at, and just go for it. Get some experience, find a project that you can assist on, and just get involved. Just find a way to get a foot in the door, and just work really hard.
Yeah, and just to let you know, in terms of Nicola, I will be sending an email with Nicola's LinkedIn details.
Okay, so already we can see fantastic, brings so much memories. Can I have a big round of applause, everyone? Almost 2 years back now, Nicola's back, and this time as a global mentor for making sure and mentoring people for becoming chartered project professional as well as a member of. So it's fantastic to have you here. And just quickly, everyone, before we start the presentation, I just want to go on to menti.com. I just want to put some context where you guys are from before we get Nicola on board. So I just wanted to share this with you. And if you can just go on menti.com, everyone. That's menti.com. And we'll just get your feedback quickly as I share the screen as well before we go through. So let me just make sure I share the screen again there. And that's screen 1. And of course, if you can just, you see the code there. If you can just use your code, if you can have your nickname and country. I know most of you from Mauritius, but it'd be great to see, to put context to the APM and ChPP interest. So please, if you can just, please do the effort. Be good to know which country you're watching, your nickname and country. The nickname can be anything, can be James Bonds from USA, it can be anything. So it'd be great to see where you're watching us from, and just making sure we get Menti rolling. So the password is 61968067. I'm just going to share that on the chat. 61968067, right? So we've got already Diana from Mauritius, Diana from South Africa. We've got Kimberly from Saudi Arabia. Fantastic to see you. It'll be good to see where you're watching us as well. Because Trisha, Mayo. So fantastic to see all of you joining us right now. So yeah, we're going to give you 20 more seconds on that one before we move on. So the Mauritius being the big one, we've got lots of colleagues here interested in becoming chartered. So right, so we'll move on to the next question, and we'll come back. So we'll move on to the next question on that one. And the next question is, how many of you are into project and program management? So quite straightforward question. How many of you are into project and program management? As you can see, Nicola, there, the bar chart is going up and down. And of course, we've got, yeah, so please use we'll give you again 30 seconds on that one. And then we'll catch up. So seems like 50% for now. Okay, so, and there'll be many more of you joining. So I'll just make sure we've got that already, and you will see colleagues joining us from different parts of the world. Okay, so we've got 50-50 for now, which is fantastic. That's the aim of it. Some of you want to become project manager. Some of you are already project manager. And how do we formalize that into become chartered? So that's great. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. And of course, I know colleagues of you are actually putting your name as you get through. So we've got colleagues from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, South Africa, Singapore. So fantastic to see all of you. Thank you very much indeed. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Nicola, thank you very much indeed. I just wanted to share something before you take the presentation away, really. I remember in 2017, I wanted to become a chartered project professional, and I contacted a company, and it was so hard. Like, the advice was not there, and I was not getting value. And I wanted to become chartered project professional despite being a member of RICS, but it wasn't there. It wasn't like, okay, I'll spend like half an hour, 1 hour, or 1 hour and a half to talk to you. What you're doing, Nicola, is really breaking the boundaries from one end to the other to enhance professionalism when it comes to project managers on a global scale. What's your thought on it, Nicola, before we start your presentation? And I can't thank you enough for what you did for us 2 years ago to now. Few words from what we had last time and piggybacking on what we have today. Few words, please.
Yeah, so just a few words. So Anil, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me back today. And it was really lovely to look back over that presentation that we did sort of over 2 years ago now. I don't think either of us expected that sort of where we would be 2 years later. But what I will say is that underlying passion for more people to experience the really incredible career that I've had, you know, to keep learning. And I will say You know, I don't think I wasn't chartered back when I gave the presentation 2 years ago, and even just the progress that I've made in those 2 years, the enhancement to my career, to my earning potential, you know, just to my position as a professional, what a difference those 2 years have made. And I'm really hoping that today's presentation is going to inspire somebody to take those first steps on that journey. I was there where you were, Anil, when I first looked at becoming chartered. I think I looked at it and I buried it for about 9 months because it was so difficult to kind of work out how to do, you know, how to get through and how to do it. So part of the reason that I'm so passionate about doing this is just helping other people who may experience the same thing and just give them a bit of support, which is what I think a lot of us needed when we first look into this. So I'm hoping today that's going to be that first step on that journey.
Perfect. I just want to share this quickly. I just want to launch a quick survey as well. How many of you have undergone training to become chartered PM? So I think something again be great to have on the Zoom there. It's great turnout as well. Fantastic to see you all. We've got people from 4 different continents today, and it just shows the value of project management that Nicola will be able to help us in becoming chartership. How many of you have undergone training? Just quickly before I open the result there, Nicola, what do you think in terms of people take project management for granted, chartered project management, but they don't necessarily do the training? So what do you think the stat will be here today? 50-50, 70%? What's the stat there?
So I'm going to go for, I think it's probably quite low. So if we've got 10%, I'd be really impressed with that.
Wow. Okay, so you're not far off, actually. I'm going to share the result with you, and you can see already it's 14% who's gone through training, but a whopping 86%. What's your thought on that, Nicola?
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me, and it's one of the things that I'm really wanting to change is that I want to see more project managers actually get those badges to tell people, to show people what their experiences are, and to really demonstrate really quickly just how senior they are within the profession. So I really am an advocate for more people undertaking professional qualification. It may not be chartership, but there are many others that you can definitely take that will get you up and through to chartership.
Okay, perfect. Take it away if you can show a slide. Thank you very much indeed for this. To me, today is a historic day. It's one of its kind outside Europe, what we're doing today. And I'm so grateful, humble, and privileged as always. Thank you very much indeed. Guys, can we have a big round of applause again for this amazing webinar, which we're going to enjoy? We've only got 1 hour and 15 minutes. We're going to have plenty of questions as well. Nicola, take it away, and thank you very much indeed.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Neil. So firstly, I just want to say good evening to everybody, and really just thank you for taking the time out to join me today. I very much hope that this will be a really useful and valuable session for you. We've had a phenomenal response to the webinar invite, and I'm really grateful for everybody wanting to share this time with me. So I'm looking forward to sharing my knowledge with you. I really want this to be a useful and beneficial session, so please feel free to take notes. But having said that, the presentation will be made available after today's session, and there's also some PDFs that I want to give you that hopefully will just provide some initial guidance for you. So if you are inspired by what you hear today, there's some guidance that will help you take those first steps on that journey. So before we start in earnest, I'd just like to say thank you again to Anil, and just really just for providing this absolutely inspirational platform for individuals, and really for giving people like me the opportunity to give back. So just thank you for the time that you've put into doing this. So today is about giving you what I hope is some critical information. And I hope that you'll go away, have a think about what you've seen here, but more importantly, I'm hoping that you're going to take some action as a result of what you've heard. There is no better time than right now to think about your professional qualification. And it's really important that we all are proactive in our careers and in the actions that we take forward in order to develop our careers and our professional status. I think we're all aware that a recession is looming. Job security is becoming ever increasingly harder. So I think it's really important that there are things like Chartership that can help you stand out from the crowd. So again, this is a really, really important time. And if you can really prioritize your development right now, it really will set you up for really good things in the future. So we've got about an hour and a half today. I don't know how much we've used up, but I'm just going to run through the agenda really quickly. We've got time for Q&As at various breakpoints. So feel free to leave any questions to those breakpoints, but I also think, Anil, you're going to be collecting any questions that might be coming in the message box in the meantime. So I'll be happy to kind of stop and take those questions at that time. So in terms of what we're going to be going through, so I'm going to give a little bit of an overview in terms of what Chartership is and why it is so important, the benefits of Chartership, so ChPP, how that fits in together with actually being an APM member and a registered project professional, and then just some guidance around what it is that you actually need to know before you embark on your ChPP journey, and that will take into it some of the other qualifications that will lead you up to being a chartered professional. We'll have another little break then, and then hopefully at the tail end of the presentation, I'm going to be giving you some very much more detailed specific information about the different routes to achieving your chartership, and then some of the competencies and the continuous professional development that's required to support your application. So it's quite a packed agenda. As I said, we'll have a look how we're going in terms of time. I very much hope that I will get through all of it, but if we don't, it's just to say that there will be some additional guidance material that's available afterwards, and that will fill in any of the areas if we've had to go through quite quickly. So a little bit about me. So I think it was really useful to have Anil's introduction there. So I am a chartered professional project manager. I received my chartership, I think it's been a couple of years now. So as I said, so I was one of the earliest project managers to actually undertake chartership. Since then, I've also gained an MBA, and pretty much my sort of professional areas of expertise are around business strategy and business development, but a very important part of what I do within my current role within ARUP is actually to develop our project managers, and that really spans from our kind of early career, so our next generation project managers, but that goes right through to our experienced project managers, who have been working on projects. They're amazingly excellent professionals, but are looking to get that badge of authority within the industry and actually seek then to gain their chartership. I graduated from Warwick Business School. I've actually done a couple of qualifications. So I actually did my MBA at Warwick, but I'd also done a postgraduate back in 2012. And I did my first degree from the University of Surrey. In terms of kind of, other things that I do as well as kind of my day job as a project manager, I coach, I'm an associate consultant. So I work with, a myriad of different clients. A lot of them are within the construction industry, but also I've recently moved across to advising and supporting at national level, and that's around the development and creations of some of the projects, the big projects that we're working on. And just a few little personal things. So I'm a mum of, I'd like to say 2 children, but they're both adults now. They're just about to embark on university. I'm an entrepreneur. As I said, I've literally just in the process of setting up my own coaching consultancy, very much focused around developing individuals in project management, but also just in terms of career development across the piece. I'm an advocate for social change. I'm particularly passionate about more women, more BAME, so Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups, really being showcased within our industry. And that's something that to date hasn't happened. And that is very much one of the drivers behind me doing coaching and mentoring, because I really am not seeing the diversity in our industry that I think we should be seeing. And those individuals and colleagues who are from a BAME background tend to have a very small voice, and getting things like chartership is one way that we can really tackle that and start to make our mark within the industry. So that's a little bit about me. What is chartership, or what is a charter, and why is it so important? So many of you will be aware of some of the other chartered opportunities that are available. The APM's Chartered Project Management qualification is probably one of the most recent that has come into being. It's actually a chartership that's been in the making for over 10 years. So I think it was back in 2009 that the APM first started thinking about what a chartership would look like. And it took 10 years for them to develop the qualification, but more importantly, get that royal seal of approval that said that this would be the industry standard. Just some other ones that you might be familiar with. So RICS, ICE, Institute of Chartered Engineers, Chartered Surveyors, which is the CIOB, and then IOSH, and then also IRM, which is the Institute of Risk Managers. So there are a range of different charterships, and this is very much just in the construction industry. There are other charterships, you will be aware of maybe chartered accountants, chartered civil engineers. So all of these different charterships are really a recognition that you have reached a particular standard within your industry, and not only has that chartership been recognised within the industry, but it is also being recognised externally, and therefore it can hold its own among all of those other charterships. So a little bit about kind of the progress to charterships, and this is quite an interesting analysis because different charterships require different requirements, both in terms of the experience that you need, so the length of time that you need to be able to demonstrate that you've been a senior level practitioner, but also in terms of what are those other additional qualifications that you require in order to attain that particular chartership. So one of the things we're going to talk about this afternoon is that there are a number of different routes, particularly to achieving project management chartership. And the reason that the APM have done that is really to ensure that individuals have got different opportunities to actually access that qualification. So while it actually says, 7 years in order to achieve it, that is very much an average, and that very much depends on the type of projects that you have got access to. So as I said, there are a couple of ways that you're able to do this. You can actually undertake an accredited course. You can undertake an accredited course and you can demonstrate some professional practice, or you can actually practice and provide some evidence of your level of experience. And all of these 3 ways will depend on where you are within your career and the type of projects that you have got access to. But for instance, I undertook the experiential route to chartership. So what that did was recognise that I had many years of experience within a project at different levels, and therefore the particular route that I was going through, I simply needed to demonstrate that level of experience to the required level in order to gain that qualification. So just a little bit about what a charter standard actually means. So it is a professional benchmark that demonstrates the attainment of a defined level of both technical knowledge, professional practice, and ethical behaviour. And that is very much common to most chartered practice exams that you will undertake. So they all, to some level or extent, will provide a need for that technical knowledge and that professional practice. The basis of the assessment is basically in order to recognise in a formal way that you have actually attained that. And most chartership bodies will have a formal list which they will use to actually capture those professionals that have attained that chartership. And that's really important because that list is also visible to employers, it's also visible to clients, and it's also visible to your peers. So that's a really additional benefit of achieving your chartership, is just that visibility that it gives you within the industry. And just lastly to say, so in particular, chartership is a relatively new qualification. As I said, it's only been around since 2020, and sorry, it's only been around since 2018, and there have only been just under 1,500 successful applicants. So this is a really interesting time to actually achieve your chartership, because not only do you stand out from the crowd, but it's at a point of time that so few people are actually achieving charter status that it is immediately recognised that you have really attained something that is quite special within the industry. And I think, to add some context to this, if you think about, if you were a chartered accountant, if you were within the first, 1,500 chartered accountants across the globe, just imagine that level of kind of pull and interest that you would actually attain as a result of that. So that's where we are within project management chartership at the moment. We're very much right at the start of the journey. So as I've said, there's under 1,500 successful chartered professionals at the moment, and this is, deliberate. Chartership has been designed to be rigorous. One of the interesting things to know is that on average, only about 40% of applicants will actually be successful at any point in time. And even as an organisation, when we started, and that's ARUP, when we started initially putting our project managers through chartership, even very experienced chartered managers were actually not necessarily passing on the first time. So firstly, what I would say is it's not the end of the world if you aren't successful the first time, but certainly my role within the business was really to up those statistics and really give people the support and the training that's needed underneath it to make sure that that application is successful. Like most things, there is a financial penalty if you don't pass it the first time. So certainly from a commercial point of view, we wanted to get as many of our project managers through first time as possible. So that was one of the reasons that I developed such a particularly support package to help individuals as they go through that process. So although it is rigorous, it is important that it's accessible to individuals with the right qualifications and the right level of experience. So there is a lot of information in terms of exactly what you need in order to demonstrate your ability to actually be considered for chartership. In terms of what is needed, so as I've said, it's a mixture of that technical knowledge, but it's also that ability to be able to apply that knowledge within a professional environment and within professional practice. So that is what they are testing when you're actually undertaking the qualification. They're also wanting to test your commitment to professional ethics. And then the last thing that they're looking for is really your ability to really continue to grow within the profession. So that CPD aspect is really, really important. And that's seen actually as kind of the third leg of that stool of the various requirements. It is really important that you know, you are looking to develop your career. So the chartership is really almost just the start of that journey, and they expect their chartered professionals to then go on and enhance the industry, you know, once they've actually obtained their chartership. So the chartership qualification is based upon a competence framework. So this is a set of competencies that in effect the APM have identified as being the kind of core structure as to anybody's professional and knowledge base within being a project manager. And this framework of those 30 competencies is what you are tested on when you're actually undertaking that qualification. And therein lies the rigor with this chartership, because you actually have to have an in-depth understanding and knowledge of every single one of those competencies. The interesting thing, when I undertook my chartership, there are actually only 27 competencies, so it has actually increased by a further 3, I think, that came on earlier this year, and that's around digital, sustainability, and also EDI, so equality, diversity and inclusion. So understanding how that is implemented within the project environment. But the other competencies are anything from risk management, program controls, finances, so a real mix of those different competencies that underpin being a project manager today. So why is it important? So it's important because it's a recognisable mark of a standard of your profession. So if you are chartered, you're able to walk into any project environment, any organisation that recognises chartership, and actually say that you've been able to obtain that standard. It raises the value and the profile of a PM as being the first choice of the profession. So this is really to say that, you know, I think, Anil, as you'd mentioned, that you've undertaken RICS, but having a formal chartership in place has really put project manager on that same ranking as some of those other older professions, and really demonstrated actually that it is a career choice on its own. It develops an assured group of professionals. So again, it's creating that community of project managers that can all talk with the same language and all have the same understanding. So as an industry, there is strength to having a chartership. And as that body of individuals and of professional grows, so the industry will become stronger. And again, start to attract newer and younger project professionals to it. As I've said, you've now got a registered chartered set of professionals. So again, that's helping to show the visibility right across the industry, and have that available to clients in particular who are looking to bring on that project management expertise. And the last thing is really helping to support the shortage of qualified and assured project professionals. And I think this is the point that I really wanted to make as we start to head towards a time when, you know, most businesses are going to start feeling the pinch. You know, we're starting to see already those early signs of a recession. So, you know, really helping for the industry itself to attract the right level of professionals, but also for professionals, if you have those additional sets of qualifications, it really helps you to cut through what might be quite a challenging time in coming months. So I'm going to take a little break for questions there. That's very much kind of the overview and the background to where chartership has come from.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. We've got lots of colleagues here, over 100 plus. Nicola was really keen to us on APM today. We've got a few questions already. I think the first one, guys, please put your question in regarding, can I ask you a question first quickly on my side? What's the difference between being a member of APM and being a chartered project professional? I get confused. So I go on the website, you can write a statement of, say, I think 2,500 words plus your expenses, and you become a member of APM. But then you've got the chartered project professional. Can you just please demystify and dismiss this for us?
Yeah, I will do. And I've got a whole slide on this, which has got graphics on it. The key thing is the chartered route is actually demonstrating knowledge and technical expertise. If you are a member of the APM, it's like being a member of a professional body. So they are two entirely different streams. You don't need to be a member of the APM to achieve your chartership. And to achieve chartership, you don't need to be a member. So they are two distinct pathways. And just to give a little bit of the history behind it, when the APM were actually going for their royal assent, so in effect the permission to be a chartership, when they looked at the requirements for membership, they were actually told that they were not stringent enough to receive the chartership badge. Wow. So that was the reason. So chartership, if it helps, is the much more rigorous journey. So to become a member, you simply need to demonstrate your activity within the profession, and it basically is to kind of confirm that you understand what project management is, you have access to projects, and that you want to become part of a body with other project managers. Whereas if you're doing chartership, what you're trying to demonstrate is that you actually have that underpinning knowledge and ability for that application of that knowledge and that professional practice. So that is the difference.
Wow, but so obviously member is like, you know, you get recognized as a project manager, but then chartered is taking to the next level, really in terms of taking project management to the peak of what you can achieve being chartered.
Yeah, so the chartership is really the kind of, it's the bit that says you're professional and it demonstrates that you have the knowledge and you have the practice to allow you to do that. A member just recognizes that you are a project manager, but it doesn't necessarily demonstrate what it is that you actually do day to day. It's almost a badge to say you are a project manager, and we're happy to have you in our play group, so to speak.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. We'll pick up the first question. Do you need formal training degree in project manager to enroll in the chartered project management route?
No, you don't. So this is something, again, we're going to go through in a little bit more detail in some coming slides. There are 3 actual routes that you can become chartered, one of which is what I would say is a kind of an academic accredited way. And if you decide to go down that route, you can actually do it based on the fact that you've done some specific project management qualifications, but it's really important. They have to be accredited. You can't just do a project management degree and use that as part of your chartership application. Unfortunately, there is a very narrow number of either accredited degree programs or accredited courses which will allow you to go through that particular route. But separate to that, there are also 2 other routes. As I said, one is an experiential, which means you don't need any qualifications and you haven't got to basically it's predicated on the fact that you've been a project manager for a certain number of years and you've been involved in a particular type of project at a particular seniority level. And then there's a kind of a halfway house, which based on doing some additional qualifications will give you some of that experience that you won't have got because you won't have been in the industry long enough, but instead of getting it from the industry, you'll have got it from a training course that they have specifically put together. And
also, can we just make it clear here, Nicola, that chartered project professional or becoming a member of APM, which is the MAPM, is not only applicable to construction industry, it's a pan-sector industry.
Absolutely. So, and really thank you for bringing that up. It is exactly that. So it isn't just about being in construction. So I've literally just done some work with somebody from Microsoft who are putting together a project around developing data centers. So it is about the pure science of project management. It just happens that you can apply project management in a construction environment, but there are many other places that you can demonstrate project management as well. So for instance, a big area that's got a growing project management community is in legal, also in banking and finance, and as I've said, things like tech now are also recognising that value in project management.
And I also some colleague from the aviation industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually pretty much anywhere where you are trying to achieve an outcome and you have a defined set of requirements where you can apply a project, project chartership or project qualifications are going to be useful. It's just interesting now, obviously construction was one of the first sectors to kind of recognise that need for that sort of systematic approach.
We badly need project management in the construction industry, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, but actually it is really exciting now to see some of those other industries that are picking up on project management, and it's one of the reasons that you're starting to see so many project management degrees coming up in various universities, because it isn't now just being restricted to kind of construction and kind of infrastructure delivery. It's all of these other spheres that are now interested in doing it.
Okay, I'll pick up a few more questions. What's the cost of applying for MAPM, which is a member, or chartered project professional? So what's the entry fee? How much do you need to pay to actually enroll on the journey of becoming a chartered?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I'm going to leave that a little bit till we get to the slides, only because I've got the exact amounts there. Again, it is a multiple progression. So there's actually a written part of your submission, and then you have an interview part of your submission. And each one of those parts has got a cost that is attached to it. As soon as we come to that slide, I'll bring it out. It's in the next section, so I'll leave it to them.
Okay, and there's a question there. Most professional bodies require a minimum of 20 CPD hours before one may recommend it for assessment. Can you recommend more platforms such as these webinars that offer free or affordable CPD courses, considering that plenty have a price tag that are quite exorbitant for us down Southern Hemisphere?
I think that's, again, a really, really good point. The interesting thing is I have a spreadsheet that lays out some of the different ways that you can get some of that CPD training. So for instance, when I'm doing it, back at ARUP, we do things, for instance, lunch and learn sessions. There are a number of books that you can read that will count towards your CPD time. Watching webinars as this one here, this will count towards CPD, and they are listed actually on the APM website. It is incredibly hard to find it, so I've pulled them all out, and there's a PDF that I've actually sort of captured those in. But I completely agree with you. Some of the CPD training is actually very expensive. One of the things that you can do is if you have within your own organization, look for CPD training that you can use that will be paid on your job anyway. And again, there's a bit of a kind of a hack that I use. It's called 70-20-10, and it basically says that 70% of your learning should come from day-to-day interaction on the job. 20% should come from learning from others, and that might be via a book, via a webinar, working with colleagues, and then 10% is from formal courses. So that's where you might attract some cost to it. But if you use that formula, that can reduce the amount that you're paying for CPD.
Fantastic, awesome. And guys, don't forget my website. I've got 100 hours of CPD on my website, my YouTube channel, so please do check it out. I've got my colleague Prema, who was the first chartered project management surveyor for the RICS, chartered project management surveyor. She's asking the question, do you get any exemption when you are a chartered PM from RICS?
Yeah, good question. No, you don't, unfortunately.
Despite being first in Mauritius.
Yeah, unfortunately not. And we have got lots of colleagues that are transitioned between other charterships to ChPP, and I get that question asked all the time. Unfortunately not.
Okay, fantastic. There's a question from Sonar from India. What is the difference between this course and RICS? I think the RICS is much more property construction related, whereas the one that you're talking is pan-sector.
Yeah, exactly. So it's much more narrow in its focus. It will have a slightly different set of competencies. The APM are very specific in terms of its kind of underlying information. And if any of you are aware of the body of knowledge, it's a specific Bible of project management methodology that's specific to the APM. A lot of that, the only additional slight support that you might get is if you've done Prince 2, because it was loosely based on that. So this was a further iteration. So they do give some additional credit if you've done Prince 2 in the past. But again, it more just helps you in your learning journey.
Okay, thank you. We'll take two last questions quickly. We've got my colleague Vicky. Do you need a mentor or a sponsor for doing the chartered?
Yeah, so you need 2 sponsors, and they are just 2 individuals who can vouch the fact that you are a project professional and that you are a project manager on or have been project manager on a particular project. So they are what you would call your project sponsors. They will need to be part of, it's almost a bit like having a recommendation or having somebody write you a reference.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Of course, we will talk about how you will be able to assist at the end with regard to become a mentor. Of course, there's always a fee involved with it to make sure we get through. There's one last question, and anonymous attendee, if anyone is working on a Revit model or being like a BIM manager, can they embark onto becoming a ChPP?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, all of those more specific project management pathways are all now being recognised within Chartership. What I will say is that there is a little bit of an art in order to take some of that specific specialist knowledge and actually write your application in such a way that you're going to hit the required standard for Chartership. So for instance, I have lots of managers that I've worked with who are change managers, or they are PMO specialists. All of these individuals have got through Chartership, but we've had to work in terms of translating some of their experience into more generic project management experience. And I think that's exactly the same if you come from a BIM background. So for myself, I've had a real mixture in a career. I was a business change specialist. I've done PMO, as well as also doing pure project management. So what you're now seeing is that the APM started from quite a purist perspective, but they are recognising that project management is a much more broad set of skills and capabilities underneath that. So
essentially it's open to anyone with the right experience.
Absolutely. So I think that the key thing is, first of all, recognising, are you working on projects? You might have a specialist aspect within that project, and then it's just some work that you'll need to do in order to ensure that you haven't got any gaps in terms of the work that you're doing, and then you're able to translate some of your experience so that you are in effect writing your submission in a way that hits those general project management requirements.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing you're doing it.
And can I just say also, everyone, is that you're going to need to have the right guidance and the right mentor, because when you look at the 30 framework, your head does spin big time, right? And you will say, look, this is not for me. Correct me on this, Nicola.
Yeah, and it's something, I mean, as I said, I've worked with the APM leadership for some time now, and they've used our experience as a corporate member to try and shed some light on why it's so difficult for people to actually get through it. You know, all I can say is that our stats with people getting through has improved because we have provided them that support and guidance and mentorship. And one of the things is we have more people that get through the process, they become peer support and members. So things even as simple as reading through your application, understanding the language that the APM are looking for. It is an incredibly challenging you know, process to go through, and you know, I feel like apologizing on their behalf because I mean I'm frustrated in it myself, and I can honestly say I probably wouldn't have got through it and wouldn't have done it without thinking I really want to do this. And I think you've got to be incredibly determined, and it's one of the reasons that I am so clear on saying that this will make a difference to your career, this will make a difference to your earning potential. So that is why you need to kind of just take that extra piece of kind of resolve, and really kind of, you know, have a go at trying to do this. I will say, without a doubt, and one of the reasons why I've set up this coaching organisation is that I do recognise that people need some help in terms of getting through this process. There is free support on the APM website, but I don't think it's anywhere near sufficient to really help people get through it. I mean, I've known some incredibly experienced project managers who have failed on their first time. You know, simply
because they just take it for granted. Simply.
Yeah, exactly. So, you won't necessarily know that the more recent, APM terms of doing things. You'll have worked with different clients will have different terms for project aspects. And unfortunately, the APM is an incredibly rigid qualification, and they will want you to hit the nail of every one of their terms. So those are the kind of pitfalls, unfortunately, where having a coach or a mentor or a kind of a guidance program to help you get through it makes a real difference. And although in most cases there will be a cost to it, what you've got to do is balance that up with the cost of possibly not passing the first time, or even actually not being able to add this to your CV, and maybe not being able to get some of those roles early enough in your career. So, you really weigh it up and think, right, this is going to, do a cost analysis as to how much this can improve your your employability, and also obviously how much you can earn within the profession.
Fantastic. Look, I'm so glad you're here, because we didn't have the support before, and with Zoom now and with the technology we can reach out to you as well. Fantastic. Take it away again to your presentation.
Yeah.
We've got enough time, not to worry. We've got lots of colleagues here and lots of questions coming in as well, so we've managed to reply all of them. And let's go for part 2, if you can share screen again, and let's take it away. Thank you very much indeed.
Awesome. Okay, so moving on to the next bit. So just a little bit around the benefits of ChPP over the other PM qualifications. So most of you will be aware that there are lots of project management qualifications out there and lots of different methodologies. And I'm going to be quite honest and say that, I absolutely advocate for the APM's project management qualification. One, because of the international and the UK recognition. And you will see that a lot of the really cutting edge, particularly in the construction industry, but we're now starting to see it, as I said, in banking, in legal, and the APM have worked with all of those different industries. So it's about the recognition that the APM have got. But I wanted to be very upfront and just show you some of the other qualifications. So many of you will be aware of Prince 2. You've obviously got the Project Management Institute PMI qualification, and that in particular is a certified association in project management. You may have heard of terms like Certified Scrum Master. So that is starting to look at some of the methodologies that are used within project management. And I think that's the other thing that you've got to be quite careful of. Some of the qualifications are specific activities within project management. So APM is it's a general qualification. It's not just looking at one particular type of project management activity. So just be careful in some of those other qualifications, because again, what you'll be doing is you're becoming a specialist, but then if you'll have that requirement to maybe do a broader project manager role, then that qualification won't necessarily hold the same weight as some others. You've got certified project manager, so that's the IAEM qualifications. That's the International Applied Project Managers qualification. You've also got the Professional in Project Management, which is PPM, and then you've got Six Sigma qualification also, which is your kind of lean practice. And interestingly, what you can do is actually have a combination of some of those qualifications. So for instance, I also have a Prince 2 qualification. I have a Six Sigma qualification, and I've also, it's not listed here, but I've also got an Agile project management qualification. But actually, the one that I put on my CV is APM, because that's the one that's got the broadest umbrella term and has the greatest weight within the industry. But it is worth just kind of understanding that there are a lot of qualifications that are kind of swimming around in the field at the moment. And there's lots of information on this, and so feel free to have a look and Google. And one of the things that's really important to do is look at where you are in your part of the world and have a think about your career aspirations, because it may be that another qualification is more appropriate for where you are. So I just want to just give a slight caveat there. And one of the things that I do, so as you'll be aware, ARUP is an international organisation. So I will give very different advice to my colleagues from the Australia office than I will, for instance, to our colleagues in our UK and our African office, because the type of projects that, for instance, our colleagues in Africa or our colleagues in India will be doing, they will very much typically be working on infrastructure projects in Europe, and therefore the APM will be more highly recognised. So there's a little bit of work just to understand exactly how it aligns to where you are and the type of projects that you're going to want to do.
And can I just say as well, Nicola, if you just go back on that slide.
Yeah, sure.
For some reason, APM sound nice, like it just fit Association for Project Management. Like to me, it just hit it on the nail. Like since I started my career in construction, APM has been like the thought after. I know I'm a member of our ICS, but it's always been there for me, seriously.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, I know it's hard to say, but if you can get a mentor or get somebody that has some understanding of this, these are things that you can get support and help in understanding better.
Fantastic, thank you.
No problem. So just moving on. So this was a bit of data that I found, and it was just talking about kind of, as I said, that value in actually achieving your chartership. So 78% of employers are more likely to recruit a project manager with chartered status than another candidate who doesn't have chartered status. And remember, this isn't just restricted to APM chartership, there are other charterships as well, but having a chartered standard is going to raise you up in that priority, and having a project management chartered standard is going to, prioritize you even higher above those other candidates. So 86% of employers believe that ChP holders are going to reflect well on their organisation. And this is really interesting if you want to go into things like consultancy. All of the big four recognise sort of chartered project professionals. Clients recognise the chartered project professionals. So if you can go to an employer that are going to go out to clients, they're going to want to have your chartership and your name put forward on those different commissions. So it's really has got a lot of traction in regards to that. And then finally, employers perceive that chartered status has a positive impact on the professional's employability. So again, just going into this, the market is becoming increasingly more difficult, and you want to give yourself every single piece of help and support that you can to kind of really bulletproof your career over the next couple of years. So here are just some benefits. So benefits for the individual, and there are obviously benefits for the organisation. So as I think I've stressed quite a lot, it helps your CV to stand out from the crowd. So few other people have got chartership right now. If you can take 9 months or a year to get it, then I'm honestly, even saying that you're in the process of undertaking your chartership is going to make you more saleable to a potential employer. It's a great framework for career development. So this is something that I am, again, so passionate about. So particularly for our project managers who are very early in their career, what chartership does is it gives you a framework on which to kind of build your career pillars. So if you are sort of thinking about it, so think of it as sort of a 5 to 7 year career pathway. If you are starting to think about chartership right at the very beginning, then you can start to build in those career requirements as you're going through. So it makes a really good framework for kind of the right type of projects that you want to be involved in, the right type of professionals and peers that you want to be engaging with. It will really help you to think about the kind of qualifications. And the other thing is about the levels of seniority. Certainly when I started thinking about doing my chartership, it absolutely makes your career path crystal clear in your mind, because suddenly you're like, I want to be on this project, but I need to be on it at this particular level of seniority because I need to understand risk management and have visibility at this particular standard, or controls at this particular standard. Or if I'm doing a finance part of my project, then suddenly, because you have this standard that you're working to, you suddenly realize the level of understanding that you need to gain. So it's fantastic as a career, as a framework for your career development. It immediately provides comfort and reassurance for your clients and for people that you work with. And that's not only about just your actual practice and your knowledge, but it's also about your ethical standards as well. So and there are different ethical standards across the world, but because you've got a single body which is overseeing this, then you have one overall statement that says that you are an ethical project manager. And I think that's really, really important, particularly as we see project managers moving to projects all over the world. It's great, you get to use ChPP at the end of your name, and again, entry onto ChPP register. So very quickly, employers, clients, they can actually go onto this register and find you very quickly. So again, it pulls you out and above others that you might be competing with. In terms of the organisation, they're able to attract the best talent. So if you've got ChPP, you're likely to be, in an organisation that have got other members who are ChPP, or the members who are working towards it. So for the organisation, you're able to attract the best talent. It's a consistent internal measure for PM delivery. So lots of organisations are actually measuring the number of PMs that they are actually able to get through this process. And as I said, it's not particularly easy, but you'll see, for instance, within the Big Four, big infrastructure companies like Network Rail, like HS2, they will all have programs that are pulling their people through the ChPP process. As I said, it's a structured pathway for the organisation as well. So for instance, within ARUP, we have a very specific pathway. And for instance, to get certain promotions, you will need to undertake, different project management qualifications. And so for instance, to reach one of the senior manager levels, you will have to obtain chartership. So for organisations themselves, it's a really good way of kind of helping to discern project managers that are just great project managers from others that are actually able to acquire that leadership potential. As I said, it's a competitive position within the marketplace. So we're now starting to see lots of commissions come through where they are actually formally requesting that project managers have that project chartership qualification. And again, this is a great selling piece if you are applying for a job, because those companies will know that they are starting to need to acquire that. And then as the last of all, it's the objectives around an assessment for excellence for clients. So straight away, you know, we're able to demonstrate to the likes of HS2 Network Rail that we have excellent, you know, project professionals within our team. So this is the question around how the APM fits in with membership and qualification. So I'm just going to take us back to the basics here. So there are four. Sorry, there were four, but there are now 3 formal qualifications that you can take ahead of actually getting your ChPP. So the first one, which is the Project Fundamentals qualification, is quite a good introduction to project management, and that is useful for anybody who is sort of within the first year or 2 of project management, or for instance if you're moving from one particular discipline into project management. So that will give you everything you need just to really understand that kind of core knowledge of project management. The next one is the project management qualification, and this one is typically anything between your first 1 to 4 years as a project manager. And for this, you now need to start getting in some of that professional progress and working on actual projects. So the first qualification, the PFQ, you don't necessarily need to be working on a project. As you start to do the more senior level qualifications, you do need to be working on projects, because the information that you get within those qualifications reinforce your actual practical application. So once you've achieved 5 years of being in a project management position or having project management experience, you're then able to actually undertake the project professional qualification, or the PPQ. The practitioner qualification, so that's actually disappeared now, so that's obsolete, and that has moved now completely to the project professional qualification. So this is a really, really challenging qualification, and interestingly enough, it provides one of the direct routes into achieving your chartership. So you don't need it to undertake chartership, so you can take your chartership without doing any of these previous qualifications, because if you've got sufficient experience, that'll get you onto being chartered. But if you are going through a kind of a standard qualification or learning in project management, then if you undertake the various qualifications, that will also be a route to get you into your ChPP. So as I said, so this is where we start seeing the different routes to achieving chartership. Again, what I will say is that obviously all of these different qualifications have all got a cost attached, and not only a cost in terms of finance and money, but obviously time that you're required to do it. But what I will say is that if you are taking kind of a standard route through project management, this is a really good way of doing it, because over, for instance, that 5-year period, you'll both obtain that kind of technical knowledge alongside the practical knowledge that you're getting in your day job anyway. So this is it's a really good route. So we have lots of our project managers, and in fact, I would say the majority of our project managers will do this stepped approach through the various qualifications.
Awesome.
Yeah, so just what does this look like over the course of a career? And this is where you're going to start seeing the membership come into this. So typically, if you consider your project management qualification period as roughly being between 5 and 7 years, and what you want to be able to do is acquire all of that project management experience, technical knowledge and professional practice through those 7 years. And roughly, this is what it will look like over those 7 years. So you're gaining your qualifications, you're gaining your experience within your actual project professional delivery, and you're also becoming a member of the APM, because what that will then do is expose you to the wider body of kind of your cohort of kind of fellow project managers. And in terms of membership, there's a student membership that you can have while you're at college or university, and I believe actually that's free. You then, the paid memberships, you start at associate member, and that's typically anything up to being a year within the project management sort of qualification. Once you hit 3 years of being in project management, then you can apply for the full membership. And then as you are starting to have sort of 10 years plus in project management, you can actually apply to be a fellow of the APM. And a fellow is very much about demonstrating your value to the industry of a project manager. So you're no longer just demonstrating what you're doing, but it's actually about what you're giving back to the industry and increasing it and allowing it to grow.
Okay, Nicola, just a quick one there for many of us watching. If they are already working, they've got a degree, they've got 5 years plus experience, we could be looking at applying for ChPP.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say if you have got 5 years project management experience, then you should be looking to get on the website and start looking at what's required for you to make your application. And typically for someone in that position, so if somebody from my team came to me with 5 years experience and said, I want to apply for my chartership, then I would be working with them from anywhere between kind of 4 months to a year to help them do their submission, get them ready, get them practiced, get all of their written work up to date, close any gaps, and then get their submission in.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
Awesome. Ooh, sorry. So again, so what I wanted just to say here is that the 2 paths, so being a member of the APM is on a different pathway to actually being chartered. So all of those qualifications you can do completely independently of being a full member, but you can also be a full member and not do any of those qualifications or go straight on to chartership, or you can just decide, actually, I don't want to be a member at all. So you, and the importance of saying that is, is really just because obviously, if finances are an issue for you at all, it's really important, obviously, that you're thinking about, you know, what's the most important thing to do. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate that you decide to do membership. I think it's perfectly fine to focus on getting the qualifications, because actually they're the ones that are going to make the most difference in terms of your actual CV, and what you can pay for, and what the value that you're giving to your employers going forward.
But as you're showing on the pyramid, there are 2 different pathways and you can do them at your own time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But it's just worth seeing how they align with each other, because actually, again, a little bit like the qualifications route, you will need to demonstrate a number of years within the industry in order to be able to apply for them.
Wow, awesome. Thank you very much indeed for this clear and concise pyramid.
All right. So who is chartership actually for? So it's for anybody that meets the following criteria. So you've got a proven track record of delivering projects, you know, programs or portfolios, or in anything around kind of key controls, enabling functions. So that's what we've talked about around kind of BIM, you know, PMO development, you might be a risk specialist. So any one of those sort of core areas where you have access to project management, but you may not be, you know, titled a pure project manager. So anybody who kind of fits that profile, absolutely, yeah, chartership is for you. You should have up-to-date knowledge of current practices and methods. And this is something that's really, really important, particularly for new project managers. What you need to be able to demonstrate is that you're able to deliver projects at a certain seniority, and that's typically what stops people that are working on a great project, having a year in practice and then doing chartership. It's actually about the level of seniority that you're delivering within the project and your access to different competencies. And then the last thing is that you need to be actively involved within project management professions. So they will want to see that you have a breadth of understanding of the profession. As I've already mentioned, you've got 30 competencies that you need to have a proper understanding of it. And it's really important. It's open to everybody who undertakes projects. It's not just for APM members. So that shouldn't put you off at all. Awesome. So here are the costs for actually achieving your ChPP. So if you decide to go through route 1 of ChPP, it's actually £710 plus VAT. If you decide to go through route 2, it's £245. And if you decide to go through route 3, it's £1,110. And the reason for that fluctuation in prices is because you are tested on different things within the different routes. So if you go through route 2, which is the cheapest, the cheapest route to go through, because you've undertaken some of the accredited assessments, you've in effect demonstrated because you've done the assessment, so they don't need to retest you on those aspects. So that's why it's cheaper. And likewise with route 1, again, you will have undertaken some of the professional practice, so you won't need to be tested for that again within the process of actually doing your ChPP. Route 3, which is the most expensive of the 3 routes, they are having to test your knowledge across your technical and your professional practice, as well as your Cpd and your ethics. And because that process is so much more stringent, that's why it's more expensive. So it's more about how much work the APM have to do in order to assure your level of expertise. That's what is basically creating the cost of all of those aspects. It's worth noting that for both route 1 and route 3, it is a 2-part process. So you actually do a written submission followed by an interview, and you've got to pass the written submission before you can go on.
Absolutely.
To do, before you go on to do your formal interview. And so it's not just a one payment. So you pay the first part, you pass that section, and then you're once you're accepted to go into your interview, you can then pay for the interview part of the process. Unfortunately, if you're not successful in the first part of the process, then there is a cost to resubmit your application. And likewise, if you do the interview and you're not successful in the interview, to redo the interview section only, there is an additional cost for you to actually do that. So it's worth bearing in mind those additional costs, particularly because, as I've said, it is, there is a high retake stat for it. So please try and bear that in mind. Obviously, in the best scenario, you will pass first time, and that's actually what I want people to do, rather than having to do that. But it's important that you remember that.
I'm definitely going to use your services, Nicola, to pass this time.
Yeah, it's incredibly painful. You've put in all this hard work, and as I said, I've seen amazing project managers have to redo it again, and it's really, really hard to kind of watch that happen.
It's heartbreaking, and it's not easy. After so much emotion or so much physical work, it does break your heart. So we want to make sure we pass right first time. To become a chartered professional.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's an annual registration fee. So The first payment for that is 12 months after you've been awarded the ChPP. So the first one is free for the first year. You then have an annual registration fee. And just to say, that annual registration fee is what puts you on the members register. You can actually decide that you don't want to be on the register, and then you don't have to pay the £80 annually. So
and that register is a global register, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's completely managed by the APM, and they make it available, as you say, globally. But it's your choice to go on there. So if you decide that you don't want to, you can still be chartered and not have to pay that £80 registration. It's entirely up to you to do that. So there is a single payment for Route 2. So that's the one in the middle, and that's basically because you just go, there's just one process rather than two for that one. Rather you have a written application, and then there is a very short telephone interview of about half an hour. So it's actually just a single payment for that, and that's why the fee for that is so much less. And just to clarify, fees are separate to your individual membership. So if you do decide that you want to have APM membership, then it's a separate process and a separate payment vehicle to do that. Okay, so how would you go about actually achieving your chartership now, if that's indeed what you would like to do? So the first thing I would say is absolutely go online to the APM website. So that is where you will get by far the largest resource of everything to do with chartership. You'll also find that there are a number of online clinics there, and that will help you in terms of that guidance through understanding whether you are ready to apply. The online clinics are also there to share best practice in preparing your submission. The other things that you can do is one-to-one coaching, and there are also a number of submission tools and templates. And interestingly enough, some of them are on the website. I've created actually a number of them that I use for my team. People that I've worked with, and again, because I know it quite well, I know all of those additional areas, even for instance in terms of doing your written submission. It's an online form, but actually it's much better, for instance, to do that on an Excel sheet using a checklist, being really clear in terms of those areas that you've got to demonstrate. And once you've then done that, actually then being able to transfer that to the online tool and submitting it there. And then finally, I think it's really important, I think it gets overlooked quite a lot, but it's that project management career support.
Yeah.
What you've got to recognise is that the chartership sits aligned to the work that you're doing as a project manager. And unless you really get that career pathway clear and fully aligned, then actually what you inevitably end up doing is having gaps in terms of your actual project management professional access to activities. So it's really important that actually when you start out the process is that you've got a really comprehensive access to all of your project activity. Brilliant. And I'm going to take a break for questions there. And apologies, I'm in a really bright room, so the sun is coming in, and as it's changing, I think it's affecting the camera. So I'm going to apologise there, Anil.
Yeah, no problem. So let me just take quick questions. I know we've got the last part. Just making sure we stop that there. There's a question there for you from Annette. Do you need to go through APM to qualify as a start for the APM qualification? There are so many companies that offer a route to APM. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so all of the companies, they will all be going back through to the APM. The APM are the only organisation that can award the qualification. So what the companies will be doing is they will be either giving you guidance, they will be giving you the sort of training or qualifications that lead up to the submission, but they will all be submitting it to the APM, and the APM are the awarding body for the chartership.
Okay, just quick one. In terms of costs, would there be some sort of subsidy to like the African continent or the Asian continent, or is it just sterling from the UK?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it is just sterling from the UK. There isn't, unfortunately, any any concessions that's provided, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Just the last one from me. We did say the failure rate for the chartered project professional is quite high. I know we've only got 1,500 members. Does it mean it's a short cohort that we will pass? I've seen many colleagues who I've been talking to. It's a really tough chartership process.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not that they've got a kind of a cap in terms of the number of people that pass the course. It's simply, firstly, the length of time that it takes to actually have a completed submission. So just writing up all your competencies, writing up your project experience, it all takes time to do that. And then obviously when you go through the submission process, you've got two potential pitfalls. So you can, if for instance, you're going through route 1 or route 3, you've got an opportunity, if your written submission is not perfect, is not hitting the standard, then you can fail at that hurdle. If you pass that but you get to the interview, and again your interview is not at the required level, then you can fail at that particular point as well. So unfortunately, it's just that rigor. There are just a number of places where potentially you can fall down. Okay, perfect. I think we'll go one more question. With all the experience and knowledge that Nicola has, which route, either route 1 or route 2 or route 3? So with all the experience and knowledge that Nicola has, which route would you recommend? So it entirely depends on your circumstances. So if you are, as I said, an experienced project manager, then I would definitely say route 3, because you don't need the other qualifications. So you can just get straight to making your submission. The one caveat I would say to that is I recommend for some of my project managers, that particularly the ones that maybe have been doing project management for 20 years or so, and they haven't looked at an APM manual for 15 of them, that they go back and they do something like the fundamentals course, or they work, for instance, with a coach like myself that is closer to the APM and can, for instance, provide them that bridge in terms of that more recent knowledge. And again, it's because it's around things like the language that's used, the type of methodologies that they might use, even things around sustainability, digital competencies, EDI. They may not be aspects of projects that they are particularly familiar with, but they will need to pass those aspects as well. So either work with a coach or or maybe do one of those very simpler qualifications, and they're much cheaper as well. So
and Nicola, just quickly, as a coach yourself, what has been your passing rate?
Yeah, so I'm thank you for this. So I've currently got a 98% pass rate.
98%, wow.
98%. And I will say the reason for that is because I've had a lot of learning. So we've had now 4 cohorts, so 4 years worth of project managers go through the process, and we've roughly had anything from 12 to 20 project managers go through, and every time we've gone through the process we have more learning. So we understand what the interviews are like, what kind of questions, where are the questions that people have fallen over. In the early days, our failure rate was just as high as lots of other organisations, but we got feedback from everybody who maybe didn't pass the interview, so we could reapply that knowledge.
So you're picking lesson learned, you're picking lots of lesson learned, you're putting lots of candidates through, feedbacks are coming through, which you can then disseminate globally.
Exactly. And then the other thing is we've been able to then have that one-to-one coaching with people. So for instance, I now have a kind of a whole group of peers that I can now say, not just myself reviewing applications, but other people that have been through the process, they will review applications. And, you know, as a tip for someone on the line, if maybe you can't afford to get a coach or to go through one of the training organisations, find somebody online who has been through the process. And even if it's just a case of having a phone call with them about what the interview is going to be like, or even have them read through your submission, because that is a person who has been through the process, and they will kind of have that APM mindset. And that's what's really made the difference in us having that higher pass rate, is we're able to provide feedback, we understand the APM language, and those are the things that unfortunately people trip over when they're doing this.
Okay, so just quickly, I want to move on to part 3 for the next 15 minutes. I just want your quick answer on those. Do you have sample reports? So if someone wants to know how it's been written, does there like availability for reports like a sample?
Yeah, so again, I have got all of those, and the thing that I find very useful is the framework, for instance, in writing up the submission. So, and I think we're going to come on to this in the next section, but one of the things that is really difficult when you're doing your written submission is that you've got a word limit for all of your competencies, and you've also got a word limit for your demonstration of your project management in an actual project. And it's getting across your experience, your knowledge within those word limits. And so what I've got is a framework that, in terms of, you know, how do you very quickly drill down to saying, I've got this technical level of expertise, I've worked at a certain seniority level, my project has a particular complexity, and then be able to describe your that actual competency all within 250 words. You need to have a framework to do that.
Wow, fantastic. And last one, I think is a yes. Does educational qualification count here? I studied international project management at master's level. Does that help? Yes, it does help. And MSc does help, right?
Yeah, it will help, because it will help you in doing your application. What it won't do is, it, for instance, you won't be accredited to go through pathway 2. You need to be accredited on their specific qualifications. So there will be some project manager degrees that are accredited, but you will need to check whether your actual qualification is one of the accredited ones.
So if the master's is accredited, you can go on to route 2.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But otherwise, if it's not accredited, it will help, because you'll have that knowledge, and hopefully your particular project, there will be crossover with the body of knowledge, because most of the... So
Nicola, if it's not accredited, then the person who's got MSc will need to go through route 1, unless he's got 10 years of experience, then it goes to route 3.
Exactly, yes.
Fantastic. And there's one question. Can you explain briefly how the coaching is conducted? I will leave that at the end, where you explain to us how you coach. So let's move on, guys. We need to do this part 3, because I know clearly our project management skill is not quite right, because we're supposed to finish in 1 hour 30 minutes. But because it's so interesting, that's fine, that's perfect. Let's take on part 3, and then we'll pick up all your questions at the end. Fantastic. Nicola, take it away. I'm really enjoying this, because this is truly groundbreaking. It's never done before. And thank you for just shedding so much light to all the colleagues right now. And guys, if you're enjoying it, please put your comment on the Q&A. We've got 15 to 20 minutes to go. So Nicola, take it away. If you can share your screen, of course, and then we'll pick up part 3.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's pick this up here. So yeah, so this section is really now just a guide to you actually getting on your journey to completing your chartership. So as I said, the key things that you need to know, so it's understanding the eligibility criteria. So that's a little bit about what we've talked about. You need to understand those routes of entry, and then you need to understand the competencies and understand how that forms the basis of the actual submission. So there's an application guide which you will find on the APM website. It's really important that you understand what chartership means for you. And I think we'll talk a little bit about the coaching afterwards. One thing that is really important for me is that people just don't do chartership for the sake of doing chartership. It's really important that you understand what it's going to deliver in terms of your career going forward. And there can be just as much value in actually working towards your chartership as actually achieving the chartership itself. So, it's really important that you kind of recognise that. Decide if becoming chartered is right for you, whether you need to do it now or whether you can afford and wait to do it later in your career. One of the things that you'll kind of get to know as you're kind of doing the analysis process is you may have some gaps in your project management experience. Even if you're quite an experienced project manager, you may, for instance, only have ever been on one type of project, and therefore you'll have some gaps. So it's important to kind of recognise whether you can go straight to doing chartership and you can go through quite a short process of closing those gaps, or whether it will take you slightly longer and you'll need to kind of strategically work out what projects to go on to close those gaps, or actually whether you just want to do one of the courses, one of the accredited courses, and that will again maybe shorten that journey. But you need to kind of understand what it is that is right for you at this particular time. And then the last thing is actually preparing your application. And as I said, this is really important because, as I said, how you get to that passing first time is to have a really solid application. And I will say, it's not one of those things you want to rush. It's much better that you take your time, you get a really good application, you're really prepared for the interview, and that you go into it as confidently as possible. And those are all things that you can do this on your own. All of the information, as I said, is on the website. But as I said, it may be helpful to some people, and again, you might be able to do this through your organisation. I'm a great advocate. If you can get someone else to pay to do this, then look to see if that can be possible. But definitely what you want to have is a really strong application. So the next thing is really that piece around how do you know if you're actually ready to undertake chartership. So this is a very simple checklist, but one of the things that I do for project managers who come through me is I have quite a detailed questionnaire, and that looks at everything from the type of projects you've been involved in, what level of seniority you are at, what other qualifications that you have, so that I know if you've been through an accredited particular pathway, and then actual understanding your gaps in your competencies. So, what I'm looking for is to have as few gaps as possible, and then as a coach, you're then looking to just close those few gaps before you do your application. But this is quite a simple checklist. So what you're looking to do is, so are you professionally active? Have you got a proven track record of delivering projects, programs, portfolios, or in one of those key enabling functions? So it's access to projects. So a BIM lead is perfectly fine. You might be an agile project manager, specialist, that's absolutely fine. You might be a business change manager, risk manager. Again, it's about your access to projects and how many of those wider competencies you also know. The projects and programs that you've been involved in, they need to be complex projects. And this is something that a lot of people will get stuck on. It's really, really important that you can demonstrate within your application that that your projects that you're working on have a level of complexity, because again, that's how they're going to demonstrate that you have all of the required level of project understanding and knowledge, because they'll know, because you'll have worked on those complex projects. You will need to have the required breadth of project experience. And again, so typically, you're looking to have 10 mandatory competencies, and then you also will have 2 elective competencies, and those are typically around finances and economics within your project management experience. And in order to really capture that breadth of competencies, that's where it can be a little bit difficult. So if you're in one of the specialist areas, so say you're a specialist risk manager, but you've never ever had, I don't know, access, for instance, to doing project finances, then you will typically fall over on those finance competencies. So it's really important that even if you're in a specialist area, you've still had access to doing some of those other competencies and you can report on them. You should have advanced technical knowledge, and you should be able to confidently evaluate and analyse the theory of current practices. And again, so this is where some of our more experienced project managers, so they will absolutely know how to work on a project inside out, but they may need to have some additional support in some of the more current practices. And again, for most project managers, that might be a couple of weekends worth of work where, you know, you've got some guided practice that helps bring you up to speed on that. But again, it's one thing kind of doing it, from a textbook, but it's another being able to kind of have an interview for 2.5 hours and being able to articulate and, really demonstrate that you know those practices inside out. So that is where you can sort of take kind of a few months in bringing yourself up to speed with that. And then finally, that you're committed to your continuing professional development. So what they will ask you to do is to keep a log of your professional development once you've passed CPD, once you've passed your chartership. And again, they will do an annual audit, and it's usually just a spot check. And you should, you'll say that you're going to do it, but you need to be able to demonstrate that you are keeping up your professional development going forward. So what's being assessed? So as I said,
Nicola, just a quick one. So we are limited of time. We've got about 15 minutes left. So we need to, because I want to terminate in exactly half past wherever we are in the world. So yeah, let's just go quickly and then pick up the important points, and then I'll leave 5 minutes for question and answers. So technically you've got 10 minutes left.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to literally just go through, because I think I've made a lot of reference to technical knowledge, professional practice and ethics. And I just want everyone to be really clear on what I mean by those aspects. So the advanced technical knowledge, so that's understanding how you deliver projects, programs and portfolios, and what you're really wanting to understand there is all of those interacting factors and the different approaches that can be taken. And so that technical knowledge is really kind of, understanding what is a project and how does it work to deliver those outputs that you're looking for. So professional practice, so that's how you actually apply that technical knowledge. So within the application, they will be looking for you to articulate how you apply that knowledge in delivering your projects, programs and portfolios. And they will be looking for you to be able to explain to them where you've got uncertainties or you've got conflicting objectives, where in your project there is a high level of unpredictability or risk, where you may be working on multiple work packages together. So they will be looking for your project management expertise in actually balancing all of those different conflicts and requirements. And then finally looking at those in multiple interdependent stakeholders. So that's looking at all of those different aspects that feed into your project. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about professional practice. And then last of all, and I'm going to finish here, Anil, so in terms of your Cpd and your ethics, what you need to be able to do is, as I've said, you need a minimum of 35 hours in the preceding 12 months up to your actual application. And the way that you're able to do that is you capture it on a log, and that log is actually available on the APM website, and you simply fill that in, and there will be guidance as to what counts as CPD and the number of hours that that's related to. And as I said, so it's a minimum of 35 hours. Yeah, and I'm gonna stop it there because the next part is really just talking about the application itself, and that's an area that potentially we could spend another hour and a half going through. But that's certainly something. If anyone's got any questions, specific questions, I'm happy to answer that.
And can you just touch on the slide 38, and then just briefly, just to give people an overview. Competencies and ChPP, just roughly on the mandatory, the elective and the totals.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so
and then we'll go to the last slides. So is the competencies? Yeah, that's the one. Please.
Is that the one? Awesome. Yeah. So there is now a third edition of the APM competencies. The competencies are basically project management broken down into its most basic form, and there are 30 of these competencies. When you are writing your application, there will be a number of competencies that are mandatory. So they will tell you in effect what you need to write, and then some of them will be elective. In terms of a more detailed explanation. And you will need, of those 30 competencies, you will actually need 12 of them within your application. Okay, as I said, so 10 of them are elective and 2 of them are mandated.
That's the one, that's the slide I wanted you just to elaborate quickly.
That's it, okay. So basically, so this is what you're going to be assessed on within each of your sort of competency submission. So you're going to need to cover a minimum of 4 professional practice assessment criteria. And Anil, this gets a little bit complicated, and this is one of the reasons that I've kind of created a submission form, because actually those criteria are really important, and if you don't hit each one of those when you are writing your submission, that's what people often fail on. And as I said, so you'll need to state what project or program that you're going to give the evidence for those competencies, and then you also need to demonstrate your level of seniority. And then each of those competence statements has got to relate to one of the projects that you have put in terms of your project summary. So at the start of your applications, you've got up to 4 projects that you can use to demonstrate your ability as a project manager. And then you've got within your 12 competencies, you use one of those projects that you have alluded to, and then you use those to then demonstrate your competencies, and you've only got 250 words in each to do that.
Wow. So all in all, we have to have 12 competencies, 9 from mandatory, 2 from elective, 10 from mandatory, 2 from elective, make it 12.
Yes, that's right, correct. So
10 mandatory, 2 elective, 12, and each counts for 250 words.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, that's just an overview. And then if you can just go to the submissions and the result date, which is your 2 before loss.
Okay, so I'm going to run through this. Tell me when to stop. Is it this one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Awesome. So the way that the APM run the submission process is that they have a rolling number of submission dates throughout the year. So the submission date that I have on the left-hand side would be the date that you submit your written submission. Once you've submitted your written submission, typically it takes about 6 weeks for them to assess that and for them to come back and confirm whether you've been successful at that stage. Once you've been confirmed successful at that stage, you will then be given up to 12 months for them to take the interview. And this is really, again, another tip. A lot of people past the application stage and past the submission stage and will jump straight into doing an interview. I will always say, give yourself some time and make sure you have prepped and are ready to do the interview. So many people fall down because they think they've done the written submission and are ready then just to go straight onto the interview. Take as much time as you need, make sure that you're ready, and then do the interview. And then for that period, you then have a specific results day. So depending on when you do it within that 12 months, you will then hit one of the results day, and the earliest of which will be the 12th of October, but there can be other dates.
So Nicola, when does the interview happen? If you had to face-to-face interview?
Yeah, so again, depending on when you've your submission, you've typically got a window, anything from 6 weeks to a year after you've been told that you've passed your written submission. So, you know, if you're in a hurry, you can do it, you know, the next available interview, and they will give you dates for that. But I would always suggest you give them dates, so you make it when it's right for you in your calendar. Maybe when you've got a quiet period at work, you know, you can actually, you know, you've got a lot more control over when you want to do the interview.
Okay, so just a quick one for anybody watching right now outside the UK. I'm working with you. I'm being encouraged by you to submit. So obviously we passed July, so the next deadline is 23rd of September. So I submit on the 23rd of September. I will need to wait October, November, so almost 2.5 months to get the result. So on the 7th of December, I announced that I pass. After I pass, what happened on the 7th of December?
Yeah, so what happens is they will typically release all the people that have passed within that cohort. And at that point in time, you will be able to use the ChPP, and you will in fact get your certificate and be told that you are formally passed your ChPP. But
when is the interview happen between September and December?
So the interview, if you decide to have a quick interview, and it hits between those dates, then you will get your results back in time for the 7th of December. If you decide that you want to, let's say you decide you want to do it 6 months, you know, you don't want to rush and do it, then you will get your results at a later date. So you might get it at the 22nd of February, but there are fixed dates when they will release the results. And depending on when you have your interview is when those dates will be.
And these dates, the 12th of October, 7th of December, and 22 of Feb, these are annual dates. They don't move.
So that's a good question. The APM will submit the dates annually.
Okay. So, so for 2022-23, these are the dates.
Exactly. So that's the date that currently they run up to. Probably at the beginning of the year, they will release the dates for the coming year.
Fantastic, thank you. And then if you do the last slide, and then we'll conclude. I think it's the online application. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything is submitted online, and it's also worth just noting that the interviews themselves are also online interviews. So since COVID, they've all gone complete to virtual. So when I did my ChPP, we had to do the interview in person. That's completely out the window now. So everything happens completely online. And as you say, it's quite a simple process. Each of the pages, you will have space to submit the information that's requested. And again, one of the tips that I have, certainly when it comes to putting in your project information, you want to have done that all off of the main website and simply cut and paste and put that onto your application. And again, the criticality of that is that, you know, you can do all of the work around word count, your checklist, all of that can be done kind of in Word or on Excel, and then it's a really easy transfer process. But it just, and again, you can, for instance, share that document with people to do a peer review. The problem is if you do it straight on the online version, once you've pressed send, that's it, it's gone.
And just a quick one as well, on the screen there, I can see the different tabs. When it gets to proposers, does the proposers need to be chartered?
No, they don't. All the proposers are doing are certifying that you have worked on a project. And anybody that you know in a professional capacity can do that. They don't need to be chartered. It's not obviously a member of your family, etc.
Okay, fantastic. I think we've got 6 minutes left. So we'll just pick up a few questions and your coaching quickly. I'm just going to start the screen now. We've got 6 minutes left. We still got loads of colleagues watching us. So, Nicola, just quickly before we ask you, we've got 6 minutes, I'm conscious of time. Ethics is huge. Ethics, right? Being ethical project manager. I mean, when you do the interview, presumably, if you get those ethics questions wrong, that could put your interview in jeopardy. Correct me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a piece of advice that I give through my coaching. So we spend time going through those ethics answers. And typically what I would do is that I would advise you prepare for a project where you can demonstrate an ethical approach. Usually it's a little bit more unstructured within the project interview. So they will typically ask you, what do you recognize as being ethical on a project? Or they may, for instance, give you a scenario and say, what is the ethical behavior of a project manager in this scenario? And I think the example that I had on my interview was around how do you manage bribery within a project context. So that gives an example of the type.
Okay, fantastic. So ethics is huge, guys. Health and safety, ethics, all of these are really, really huge. So just quickly, how do you conduct? So if I was to use your service, obviously there'll be a fee involved. We'll contact you, but how do you do the coaching? Is it stage 1, stage 2? How does it work?
Yeah, so what I do is I've got a number of different packages, and what I want to really do is cater for everybody's price package, price level. So for instance, if you just want some support in terms of doing your application, then I've got a really well priced, under £100, that will get you all of the kind of templates that you can use to fill in, and that will do some of the work around checking your submission. It will have all of the competencies on a single page. There'll be guidance in terms of what particular route. So that's like a really straightforward package. If you want to have more additional support, then I've got a masterclass, and again, this is a really cost-effective way to do it. So these are cohorts of 10 or so people, and what we do is we meet regularly and we go through a webinar similar to this, but what we do is we go through different aspects of the submission process. So right from your written assessment, right through to how you undertake the interview. So there are 5 sessions that I will go through, and it's a little bit like this. Everyone comes onto the session. You can ask whatever questions that you might have. So it's a really cost-effective way. And what's also great about doing it like that is you've got a cohort of peers that can help you with your assessment. So again, it just means that it's cost-effective, and rather than you having to have somebody spend an hour going through it, you can actually utilize the other people on your course to help you do that, and that's great, and I'm overseeing it. So that's a really cost-effective way to do it. I also do one-to-one coaching. So if, for instance, you want to pass your ChP and you want to do it within 4 months, then what I would do is put together a very, very, very specific tailored plan that in effect you would do an initial assessment. I'd understand where your weaknesses are, we'd put together a focus plan to close those gaps, and then I'd work with you in terms of doing your application. And I've got 2 coaching approaches. I've got one where you do it over 9 months, and I've got one where we do it over 4 months. And then the other last coaching method, if you're not quite sure where you are in the process, then you can do things like just a diagnostic check. So that's a really straightforward one-off. I will review where you are in your project career. I can very quickly give you some guidance in terms of what you might want to do, either in terms of which route you want to do chartership, or if you're earlier in your career, what maybe a 4 or 5 year plan might look like. And again, it's, you might not be ready now, but that focused strategic approach will get you to chartership much quicker. And then the other thing that's really great about that is there may be some qualifications that you can do in the interim, which will also help to kind of boost, you know, your employability and also your the amount of money that you're earning.
Fantastic. So my final question here, if there's many graduates watching us, so young architects, young QSs, young project managers, if they were like 3 or 4 years experience or 2 years, how long would they take to get to chartered? 6 months, a year and a half to get the submission?
Yeah, so I would pretty much say, even if you're working with a fantastic project organization, you typically need 5 good years of project experience.
Of project management.
Project management experience, absolutely. And what I'm saying is, if you're at 4 years experience, then you know you can start working towards your chartership, because then it's just about really being focused in closing those gaps in your knowledge. If you're on the 2-year spectrum of being a project manager, then what you're looking to do is think about strategically what projects you want to be involved in, so that you're building up your competencies and you're building up your seniority. So it's about understanding where you are in your project career.
Okay, so my questions are, if someone has 5 years experience, how many months do you need to carry that person to get to chartered?
So it depends again on how motivated the person is. I would like to say, and I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, good project manager. He's on, you know, working on some very senior level projects. We've set a 6-month task of getting him started. And what that 6 months includes, because I think he's got all of the competencies, I think he's had all of the experience he needs, but he's got to write his application and he's got to actually prep for the submission and the interview, and that's what the 6 months will typically be taken up with. It's not about finding him the project, it's just about preparing him for the submission. So
Nicola, based on my experience as a mentor, if someone's got 5 years experience, we could be looking at a coaching, mentoring for around 6 months to a year and a half. And if someone's got 10 years experience, we could be looking at 6 months to 1 year. And if someone's got 15 years plus, we could be looking at 6 months.
Yeah, put it so, if you have 10 years project experience, I'm confident that you have all of the competencies. I probably just need to bring you up to speed on those 3 competencies that came in last year. Everybody needs to do that. Then I think typically we could probably get you through in sort of 4 to 6 months, because it's about, you know, you need time to do your application. That's the bit that people forget. It's the application process. It takes time to actually write.
So many senior practitioners are watching right now. They've got 10 years experience and they can complete that within 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, and I an absolute guarantee. And this is the other thing that's really important. It's making sure that that submission will get you through and get you past first time, because I don't want to see anybody he doesn't pass it, because then you're in another cycle to have to do.
Absolutely. All right, thank you very much indeed. I'm just going to launch a quick poll. This is a great poll. Amazing to see all of us. We just passed 2 hours of Nicola's coaching as a giving back today. Fantastic. And I'm just going to launch that, guys, to everyone here. Based on the presentation today, are you keen to become a chartered member of APM? Nicola, seriously, I really want to consider this, because I think we've got help available, and that's something we definitely need badly, because normally you go on the website, you want to be chartered, but then again, you don't know what's happening or what not. So I think it's great to see this webinar today, and then I'm just going to stop the poll there. I'm just going to share the result, okay? What's your thought on the result? So I think initially we had 20% who had no training, 80% no training, 20% training. What's your thought on this stats today now?
I don't know, it's probably about 50-50. I'm always, okay.
So here we go, we've got 80% who definitely want to become chartered, and 20% maybe. What's your thought on that one, Nicola?
I couldn't be happier, because I want to see people chartered. I want to see good project managers recognised in the industry and by their bosses as being, you know, professional project managers. So that's fantastic news. Really good.
Okay, fantastic. We think we picked up all the questions. I'm going to stop sharing. Nicola, look, I can't thank you enough. I'll be sending an email to everyone with your details and with the YouTube being uploaded as well, guys, on my channel. And I can't thank you enough, Nicola. So what's your final word of wisdom? To me, a coach is really, really important. The coach motivates you, guide you, and finally get you to the goal that you wanted. And sometimes you need to be honest with the candidate that maybe they need to pick up some more experience, especially the young project managers. What's your final advice to all of us before we conclude once again?
So for me, it is worth, I think it's a valuable qualification. I agree with you. It's not always the right time in your career, but it's a fantastic goal to work towards. So even if you're earlier on in your career, you can use it as a framework for moving forward. And 5 years from now, you can look at it and then think about doing it. If you're an experienced project manager, one of my frustrations, and I'm going to say this, I was where a lot of you were back in my career in 2015, and I remember my manager at the time saying, well, you're a good project manager, you're nothing special, we've got lots of really good project managers about, and he sort of mentioned to me, well, you could get chartered, and he kind of left it there. There was no support, there was no help. I stumbled onto the page, and I remember being really daunted by it, but persevering, and it took me 5 years.
You've learned it the hard way, and you just want to give back.
Exactly. And for me, it's like I recognize this is a really difficult process to start, but there is help out there, and certainly if people do want to reach out to me, I will absolutely find a way that you're able to get through this. And I think, Anil, I'm going to give you some PDFs that you can give to the people on the call, so that even if they aren't able to do coaching at this stage, they can at least start the process of thinking about where they are in their career, what potential qualifications, and they can start working towards it. And then obviously if down the line they want some help, then I'm here. I really want to see, particularly project managers who come from BAME background, female project managers, young project managers who are starting off their career. I want you to be recognised as professionals, because we all are professionals, and we've now got an opportunity that we can demonstrate it, and we can benefit financially from starting to get those better positions and be recognised by our employers.
Okay, fantastic. Look, I can't thank you enough. Guys, don't forget to email me your names for the certificate attendance, plus your feedback, which will be valuable, which I'll be forwarding to Nicola. Look, this is a premiere of APM Global. Being a global ambassador for APM, I know I'm a member of RICS, but I love APM, always wanted to do it. I need to think about it now that you've done a 2-hour crash course with us. I'd love to be part of that, because I'm a project manager myself, and this is something close to my heart. So I can't thank you enough. And I just picked up, there's a few things. So Vimy just said, thank you for such a great presentation. This has been a very insightful webinar. Yes, you will get a certificate. Please email me and your feedback as well. Nicola, just to conclude, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I'm humble. This is my 96th webinar, and you are, in October 2020, right in the middle of COVID, right in the heart of COVID, you delivered something which is amazing. That was the 30th webinar. We've got to 96. You're still here. You're still supporting us in no man's land. And supporting all the countries in Asia, Africa, and now Southern Hemisphere. So I can't thank you enough, guys, and thank you everybody to be part of this amazing webinar. And I'm sure we'll pick up another chartership session at the later stage. But all I'm going to say is how humble, grateful, honored to have your time from the UK to deliver this amazing and awesome webinar. Thank you very much indeed, Nicola. We'll catch up. We'll send all the details over, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Take care. I think I've got 1 or 2 feedback coming in, just making sure we pick that up as well. Yeah, so Shabab is saying very great presentation, full of knowledge, and thank you so much for a great presentation once again. Nicola, thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you as a global APM ambassador eventually. And yeah, can't wait. I'm super excited. All right. Anything you want to say, Nicola, just to conclude?
Just to thank everybody for their attention this afternoon, and any help that I can give you, I will. And yeah, just reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, and have a wonderful afternoon, wonderful evening, wherever you are.
All right, thank you. Big wave from you. If you can have a quick wave, Nicola. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Take care. And once again, can't thank you enough. It's been amazing and I loved it. Thanks, Nicola, once again for your support. Take care. All right, bye, everyone.